Hello everybody and welcome to a new Wednesday video in which we're going to talk today about a topic that is really difficult to talk about maybe, but really essential as well in music, which is emotion. That's what music should be about, right? And the reason I'm doing that is that a few weeks ago I've uploaded this beautiful recording on Friday, which is the Bach Christmas Oratorio, by Kurt Thomas in 1959, so a really old recording. And I said in the introduction that Kurt Thomas was an unknown conductor to me until I discovered this disc, but that this recording has catched my attention in a surprisingly powerful way. And some of you, actually many of you, reached out in the comment section on that video or on Facebook or wherever, that indeed this recording had a kind of emotional impact that's hard to explain and that's kind of weird to have with such an old recording. And to be honest with you, I've listened to this recording a few times during Christmas time myself, and indeed there are fragments, there are movements, there are parts that are really powerful in an emotional way. It makes me feel joyful, it makes me want to dance even. There is some adrenaline going on. So that's emotion. And it's interesting to stand still for a moment why that is happening here. And you could say, well, to him, that's something that music is about. That should happen in every recording. And of course, in a variety of degrees, that's happening all the time. But in this recording, some moments are really powerful. Let's share one moment here in the opening part to illustrate what I'm talking about. So that's a fragment where you have these ascending scales actually symbolizing the Father who sends his Son to the earth, and actually accompanied by trumpet sounds. And all of that, these ascending scales of the violins and then the trumpet sounds, is accumulating to a kind of climax moment where actually Christ is born, symbolizing that moment, and then you have the drums celebrating that. And it's that moment, what's happening there, that's really powerful. Let's share just the same fragment, but perhaps a little bit longer. All of that, I should say, is achieved here in this opening movement in a very actually relaxed movement. Tempo, if you would like to call it like that. Tempo is actually the measurable element, the only measurable element within a movement. And movement overall, we underestimate that. The movement of a performance is your foundation. You build all other elements of your performance on top of the foundation, which is movement, and tempo is within the movement the only measurable thing. That's why tempo on its own is not important, but it's important to look at it. But that's for another topic. I would very well understand if you, under the impulse of the today Baroque orchestras, or many Baroque orchestras actually, who feel the need to play this music even ever faster and faster, that you are missing some of those, I would say, that pushy feeling, that speedy feeling, for me often enervating feeling, but that kind of feeling of pushing forward. You're missing that here in that recording, and that I could understand. Go back a few minutes and listen to those fragments again, and I will promise you that you will be surprised how fast you will be cured of those fast tempi, because the relaxation you have, the relaxed feeling of listening to this ever ongoing tactus, which has a kind of tension within itself, but it's relaxed overall, that's something you get used to very soon. And if this is a moment that you say, well, hold on for a moment, I want to listen to the complete oratorio first before I listen further to you, that's fine. There is an I icon here at your right hand upper corner. If you click on that, that will guide you to the full recording. Listen to it a few times even if necessary, but just passively on the background of listening wherever you want, but open your heart for that. If things are in that recording not in the way that you're used to hear that music, use of instruments, the way they play, the way this is recorded 60 years ago, I think it's a very beautiful recording, but it's different than we have today. Just absorb the music and then come back to this, because we're going to dive a little bit more deep into this music, also in the score, and try to understand what's happening here. So if we focus on that one moment where you have these ascending lines of the strings and you have these trumpet sounds and then this liberating moment of the drums that you yum, bum, bum, bum. What is happening there is, of course, in the first place, a kind of perfect timing. Let's not forget that those musicians at the Gewandhaus Orchestra and in the Thomaner Chor, which are and conductor Kurt Thomas, are really great musicians. The fact if you play on period instruments or not is totally unimportant, and certainly much less important than the musician who is behind that instrument. Whatever instrument he or she is playing, no matter what the way he or she is playing his or her instrument, it doesn't matter. If the timing is perfect, if that movement, if everything is a unity, then you get a powerful moment as this. And you hear me right, the use of period instrument is for me much less important than all the factors that start from this basic element of movement and tempo. Use of period instruments, I'm using that as well. I'm using a clavichord, and I wouldn't know how to play that music that I'm playing here, even not on my Girard piano. But that's another story, that's another instrument. I feel very happy here, and of course, in this kind of movement, which is not a movement actually, what fascinates me is coming as close as possible to that one moment where Bach, just 5 seconds before he starts to write this piece or another piece, what was he thinking to capture that, to discover that, which is impossible. And the period instrument helps with that, but it's not essential in enjoying music. Movement, tempo is much more powerful, I believe, in the overall effect. I'm not saying affect, I'm saying affect, which is the emotion, is the mood. And here in this recording, that's the first element. Timing is of the essence. If you play this as a computer, of course it's boring. If you go way beyond the parameters that you have set up within this movement, it's boring. There is a kind of golden point, where the point where these drums start, where the lines come, where Christ is born. That moment here is of a perfection of timing that only that makes you happy and makes you smile. But it's not the only thing. Another thing is that, and that explains partly my fascination for diving into sources is maybe not a word, but diving into the backstage part of a piece. What could have been the idea, the original idea of the composer? And again, I'm not saying that I know it. Nobody knows. Nobody has a telephone number of J.S. Bach. And we should be happy for that. Imagine that Bach would have recorded all of his music himself. I mean, we would probably be out of work. It's fascinating to think about that. And we should embrace diversity here because nobody really knows. But what drives me partly in that fascination is the fact that you can be sure that in the performance that Bach gave to this work, that there was a kind of unity that's hard to achieve when you change certain parameters, even instruments. I mean, I was just telling you that, in my opinion, movement is way more important than period instruments, but you have to create a unity. And in Bach's mind, of course, he was playing with the instruments that he had. We don't know for sure how they played those instruments. We can only read sources, and that's interesting enough. But in his originality, and it's in origin, I should say, we can assume that Bach was not only a great composer, but also a great performer. And the way I am looking at the score is more from a performance standpoint than from a composition standpoint. See it like this way. If Bach has this theme of this Weihnachtsoratorium in his head, he has to find a notation, he has to find a meter, even a key, probably that's given. But this movement, you can write it down in different ways. And he chose to write it down in 3/8 bar structure. That has a reason. So for me, if I look on a score, I look at more from the perspective of a performance standpoint. Bach gave some clues how he would like you to play his music, or he guides you in that. And of course, a score is rather abstract compared to living music, but it contains way more elements than we today often accept. Often you hear, well, we never can know, we don't know. That's for sure in the details, but the score is telling us something. One thing a score is certainly telling is and we're not going to cover this in detail, but is the notation, which is the relationship between the bars meter, that's the most important thing of a notation, which meter he has chosen 3/8 for a reason. And then the use of harmonic density structure and the use of note values. If you use way faster note values, you probably mean a little bit slower tempo. If you have a harmony structure that's really condensed, you probably are going to decrease the tempo as well, and vice versa. Starting from a tempo ordinario, again, it's not for this topic, for this video, but that will guide you for 80% in a kind of determination of, not exact, but a kind of framework in what movement that the piece should or was probably meant to be played. And here we have a 3/8 bar structure. And now let me give you two fragments. One by Kurt Thomas, 1959, the same fragment, and I will give you a recent performance by wonderful players. And again, it's not commenting on the performances of my colleagues. I hate to do that. They are giving a wonderful performance, really. Only thing is, I think it's a little bit too fast. It's B-rock under the guidance, under the with René Jacobs as a conductor. So just compare the two fragments here. So again, no judgment here. And given the tempi and the use of period instruments, also the trumpet players, I mean, it's incredible performance. They are way on top of their job. But what you hear in the performance of René Jacobs are triplets. And they're not 8 notes. It's not yum, bum, bum, it, yum, bum, 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 bum. It's faster, and then these 8 notes, 3/8, they become triplets. So a very simple question, and it's not the only one, of course, but we're not going to make this video 3 hours long, but it's something to start you think about this, that if Bach would have wanted triplets, so really the feeling of having heavy beats every 3 notes, increasing that tempo so that you really feel it as in the recording of René Jacobs, then either Bach is wrong in his notation or the performance is quote-unquote wrong, because we have, as a performer, all the rights to interpret the music as we want. The only thing that I wanted to point out here is, if you want to close to Bach, but in this movement of historically informed performance practice is, of course, the label that everybody claims, then this is an important point to consider. And if you want to have a tempo that clearly makes this 8-note structure and 3/8 sound as triplets, then you are kind of separating the performance from the notation in the score. That's the only thing I'm saying here. I'm not judging the performance again. So if you listen to Kurt Thomas, that's, in my opinion, a perfect 3/8 relaxed feeling. There are no triplets. There are 8 notes that have their own feel, that have their own right of existence. Jum, bum, bum, bum. And again, you can discuss about tempo differences here. But if you surpass a certain speed border, then you come in another bar structure. And at least that's something you can tell. It's not written in the score. Again, the score, in my opinion, where Bach gives you performance indications. It's not simply a composition. It's not abstract. It's actually very concrete performance guidance that we might look at from this perspective. Honestly, I believe that a performance like we hear by René Jacobs is taking us away, way more from the original meaning of Bach than this 1959 recording by Kurt Thomas does. And it's a bold statement, I know, because we are used to the idea that since the explosion, so to say, of the early music movement in the 60s and the 70s, thanks to the impulse that big label companies gave to some musicians, brilliant musicians, by the way. René Jacobs is a brilliant musician. I cannot underline that enough. But I have the feeling, and there are a lot of things that we could say about this, and I'm not going to touch all of those topics here, but in tempo choice, I have often the feeling that there is a kind of weird necessity, feeling, to diverse ourselves today, and many Baroque orchestras have that actually, in choosing for increased speed, increased tempi, and forgetting maybe to look at notation, movement and tempo and the combination of that, because I'm convinced that the time is right to look a little bit back to all the recordings, not that we can just take them for granted. I don't think that Kurt Thomas was really investigating tempo and tempo ordinario and notation as I'm trying to do here, but they were in a certain tradition of which, of course, many elements changed during the 19th century, but not all of them. And I have sometimes the feeling that in our reconstructed movement of music performance that we tried a little bit too much to change everything. And that's actually all I can say about that. It's about timing, it's about relaxed feel of movement, of pulse, and maybe look a little bit to the score, which in my opinion, again, to close this video with, gives Kurt Thomas clearly not a performer, or a performer that is just before that all this early music movement really started, for me, the benefit of the doubt. And partly, I believe that if this music evokes strong emotions, is because of these strong movement indicators that are, for many parts in this recording, for me, just right. That's all I have to say about this, guys. Again, it's a difficult topic to talk about. It sounds big. It sounds also that we have the need to make judgments, and at least I don't have that. I'm just saying what I feel and how I stand for against these performances and what my preference is. And again, not saying anything about the quality of René Jacobs and B-Rock. I mean, those are wonderful musicians, really, and I mean that. Okay, thank you for watching. And if this is your first time here on Authentic Sound, love to have you subscribed and join the Authentic Sound community. We have videos now on Monday where I share my performances. On Wednesday, give you some thoughts or background or whatever context that I feel the need to talk about. And on Friday, we have our inspiration video, so to say, where I share some selection of my vinyl collection, CD collection, or something I find on the internet that maybe can inspire us on our journey as a musician or a music lover. And that's the mantra of this channel. So feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, and then we see each other very soon again. Bye.